Good morning. I'm Billy Himpler with GovCon Leader Circle. Today I'm joined by Alexa Tsui. Alexa, how are you?
I'm good, Billy. How are you?
I'm good. It's Friday. Can't complain.
Yeah, I have a rule. I never complain on Fridays.
That's good. That's a good rule. Well, tell us about you.
Sure, absolutely. I am running kind of a dual role at the moment. I am the CEO of Forum and at the same time the go-to-market lead for G2 Exchange.
Very good. Very good. And you're here, DC. You're here in the DC area. You live here.
Kind of in the DC area. So I live with my amazing, incredible boyfriend up in Fort Washington. So it's a little bit around the Beltway and up to 10. So it's close enough to get there when I need to and far enough away that I could make an excuse that I don't live super close. So
That's
it's a
great.
perfect balance.
The balance. Yep. I'm a little further out myself. Well, good. Well, tell us more about Forum and G2X.
Sure. So I'll start with G2X just because I feel like it has a much faster, especially for this industry, capture point. So G2 Exchange is the only go to market tool out there. So, historically, GovWin has been like the big 800-pound gorilla in the market. And I used to work there too back in the day. But, the thing is over time, the way that BD and capture folks have needed to get information to use the information has sort of evolved and changed. And so G2X has really been on the forefront of providing people what they need when they need it to be able to keep their finger on the pulse and to turn really information into opportunity. And yep, on the forum side,
Yeah.
we've historically for the last 11 years been an events company. When I came in to be the CEO last year in about August, I launched a go to market consulting piece to the business as well. And we have 6, 7 customers now, and we're running go to market consulting because the actual BD capture rule is changing. So we've been doing that and it's been a lot of fun.
It definitely has been. It's one of the bigger areas. A lot of C-suite uh, is, I don't want to say complaining, but there seems to be a lot of chit chat around Capture BD. It sort of makes sense with this past year. Well, leading from that, what are some issues that you're seeing in the industry right now? I can think of a few, and how are you guys dealing with them?
Well, I would say they're opportunities, not issues.
Great, that's a great way to rephrase it. Yep.
Yeah, yeah. So, in 2025, I feel like there was a monopoly board that everybody knew the pieces and how to move around the board and how to pass go, collect $200. Like all that stuff was a very like ingrained process that we've been doing for years, right? And then all of a sudden, somebody switched the monopoly board out with maybe a different kind of board. Maybe it's like something else. And
Yeah.
some people noticed it and some people were able to react. But most government contractors, especially the traditional ones that are very like old school, are like refusing to change. And those are the ones that are really struggling right now with updating their processes. So one thing I'll just be very candid because in answer to your question specifically is that you have to incorporate STRATCOM, strategic communications. You have to think about that. Like, what is your ideal customer profile? Like, what are the mission problems you're solving? And how do you tell people that early and often to promote those trust signals, right? Across all of your comms. So your salespeople on the ground, they're out at the events, the LinkedIn things that you're doing, the collateral you're handing out are all of these connected into an engine that is reporting itself back to the leadership.
Excellent. Well, what are some strategies specifically that you'd recommend for maybe an A-Day that is struggling right now with recent changes? And then we'll get to some of the larges in a moment.
If I was the CEO of an 80 firm, I would probably drop that vehicle. I'd consider I mean, it's a buying mechanism, right? More than anything, I would just consider it not a viable one right now. I would pivot into other things. So, for example, if I didn't have a GSA mask, I would go get that immediately. And then I would line up my service disabled, veteran owned, and woman owned small business and hub zone plans because things are going to be moving very quickly. So, for example, some deal that you were chasing that you thought was going to end up on stars four. Well, stars four might not even happen. So, what is your service disabled veteran owned plan if that task order ends up going to Vets 2 or Polaris SDVOSB, right? So you have to have a plan for those contingencies. And so the old way of having like 1 or 2 or 3 teaming partners that you go to all the time is really high risk. You need to have like 5 or 6 companies that know you and love you, almost like a consortium that you're ready and willing to go to for each kind of like pivot that you might need to make.
Yeah. 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 We mentioned capture a moment ago. One of the bigger issues that a small business may face is, hey, I want to go hire that capture BD that's going to help us win, but it's going to take a year or two to figure out if they're our person.
Yeah.
You've probably heard that a few times. What
Yeah.
what would you recommend to that owner, that board, that group of executives that are looking at growing their BD growth team around that particular issue or other issues that they might face around growth?
Well, it's actually a fantastic question because right now, if let's just look at it from the capture person's perspective. I'm going to take the risk and join a medium sized business that's going to feel very chaotic. But if it's chaotic to the way that they feel, it's going to feel chaotic to the leadership too. So there's another option out there that I'm starting to see. And actually, Forum has this where we hire subject matter experts in different agencies and then we deploy them fractionally for different deal specific things. I'm not sure if this is a new thing or what, but I've just started getting into it. So on my team, I have like 3 or 4 subject matter experts in DHS. Like I have one for CBP, one for ICE, one for USCIS, and people will come to me and say, "Hey, I need a fractional capture person." And they'll hire, you know what I mean? Like, so I'm starting to see this come about more and more, and I feel like rather than spending 300 and something K on a person that may or may not work out, this kind of fractional support might make sense.
We're doing the same thing at Spectrum. We've been doing that for a little while, working with a few other firms that do the same thing. It is kind of an interesting community. Um, but yeah, I mean, I've seen that pop up more and more in the last several years. Right, even before the most recent election, that was starting to be a thing. The complaint of I have to wait a year or two for the capture person to work out predates the last couple of years. But no, it is definitely interesting. It it sort of becomes more of like a almost mercenary feel, and you don't want that. You don't be right? Because you want that person to be part of your team and
Yeah,
cooperating. Uh,
right.
I have seen it a couple times. I'm thinking of one in particular recently where they've had this person on as a long-term consultant, 20, 30 hours a week. Oh, now there's like, hey, we're growing. Let's bring them on permanently. So, that does happen. You have a little bit of a try before you buy relationship.
And I have no problem with mercenaries at all. They have their uses.
Sure.
But when it comes to the 2 different roles, I think part of the problem for our industry is really a lot of companies don't define what a BD person is, what their role is, and what a capture person, what their role is,
Mm,
because these 2 things are very different roles.
yeah.
I personally would not hire a BD person fractionally because that person is the face of your company. They should be able to be stopped anywhere in any street and ask, "What does your company do?" and to be able to give you the stratcom answer that's going to elevate the company to the customer. But if they're a mercenary, then they're gonna be doing that for 10, 15 companies. It just doesn't make sense from that
Right.
mold.
Right. Right.
A person is like think about it like the art of war. That's how strategic a capture person should be. And that person being a mercenary, if they're being paid good money, they're gonna be better. So why that makes more sense in my opinion.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's great. Well, one more question on sort of the opportunities facing the industry right now. A lot of the bigs got crushed this past year. Various letters came out. If you're advising a bigger firm that has traditionally been labor services, doesn't have a product that hopefully doesn't give an automatic answer there, what would you recommend?
Right. Well, Billy, it's not just the big companies. I think all government contractors are really trying to repackage their solutions into like taking some sort of an AI accelerator. Even if you're a consulting company that has traditionally been in the 5 for 1, 6 for 1 space, right? But then trying to figure out, like, let's just use Booz Allen for an example, right? Hopefully nobody from Booz Allen will get mad at me. I love you all. So, you have your consulting thing that you do, but you have your Booz Allen way of doing it. And then what is your accelerator that you can build out and add on to it? So then you're not just selling the humans, right? Your fancy staffing models, butts and seats contracts or whatever you want to call it, right? You're not just doing that. You're then selling the way and the how. And that packaged together becomes a solution. that you could then go to market with. And that's why the BD and capture old way of doing it is dying and go to market is life. Like that's a whole new model.
Excellent. That's great. All right. Well, bring it back to you. Every executive we've talked to has a unique path. Yours is very interesting. You started in language and literature at the early part of your career, and now you're CEO in the government contracting space. Um, Tell us a little bit more about how you went from that to where you are today.
Yeah, I spent a year in Japan, got a master's degree in teaching English as a second language, and then like an advanced degree in English composition. So, you'd think, wow, she probably writes proposals. No, sir. I do not write proposals. That's like the one thing my company doesn't do at all. So I was basically teaching and doing a lot of that, as you'd expect, stuff with that kind of a degree. And then I got interviewed by GovWin, and they were like, "Hey, we need an account manager. We need somebody to help us renew these accounts and to upsell the accounts and to be really close and train them and to be that trusted advisor." And I was like, I'm a trained educator. I can train anybody on anything, but I've never said the word federal procurement in my entire life. So I don't no idea what you're talking about. And they were like, "Oh, that's the easy part. It's like GovCon University in here. We'll train you. You're going to be great. We're going to hand you a stack of 100 companies. You're going to renew them on their GovWin renewals and learn their problems, go into every single company, train them, and then upsell them and renew the account." I was like, I think it sounds interesting. Let's do it. As an intensely curious person living in the DC area, you drive around all these companies and you want to know, what do they do? How are they making all this money? So I said, okay. And I got the job and I actually went to club like 3 times in a row. I was so good at that job. But
President's Club.
the President's Club,
Yeah,
yeah, I
yeah.
went to President's Club, I went to Jamaica multiple times
Nice.
with the company because if you think about it, the heart of an account manager is a farmer, not a hunter. And I was a trainer. And so I was intrinsically trained to be on their side, listen to their problems, train them on how to use the product. And so, that was a really great intro to the industry for me. And then from there, I sort of got into the rest of my career.
And so was the rest of your career Technic? Was that the next
Oh,
role?
technique. No,
Technique.
so back in the day when I was at GovWin, it was actually called Input. It was a while ago, right? And then Dell Tech bought Input and then bought a couple of the other competitors, put them together and called it GovWin. So one of my good friends, had left Input and went to Bloomberg Government. So I actually went from there to there, and I ended up leading their small business sales team at Bloomberg Government for a product, their brand new product, BGov. And I did that for a couple of years. And then Technique talked me into coming over and running their BD capture team. But because they were like one of those small 8As back when that was a thing. And they had just got their CMMI for services and dev, and they got their top secret clearance, and they just won a gigantic NASA contract. So they were like, "We want you to come in and run BD and capture for NASA across the board, all the centers." And I was like, "Yes, please, and thank you."
That's a great opportunity. And so
Oh
you
my
were there
gosh.
for was it 8 years?
Almost 10.
Almost
Yeah.
10. Okay.
Yeah, and I was able to do there I was their only BD, only capture, only recruiter, and I ran ops on the deals that I sold. So I was the PM, partial PM. So I was badged into 6 agencies, and it was super great training. Like, you think that like, I think about GovWin and BGov is kinda like training on the market intelligence side of the house. But really, that being at Technique for almost 10 years was training on the government contractor side of the house. How to build a GovCon. What does it mean to deliver good work to the government? And what do you do when things go sideways? Because as you know, they invariably do.
Yeah. Well, that sounds like the dress rehearsal for what came next.
Yeah.
Was that what allowed you to take the leap to start businesses and be on multiple boards?
Oh, what's funny is I'm kind of like a chicken when it comes to starting a business from scratch, to be completely honest with you. I always wanted to collaborate with people that I know and I love because I'm a community person. I didn't want to start something from scratch by myself. So, after Technique, I got recruited to come over and lead G2 Exchange the first time. And it was going through a transition of being acquired, and there was a lot of upheaval and churn. And I was like, okay, you know what? After 9 months, I was like, "I can't do this right now. This is a lot going on over here." So I went to my good friends at Metaphase, and they were in a Metaphase was in a phase. They were actually trying to pivot from a consulting company into a tech company, and
Okay.
because Technique was an app dev company, I was very comfortable in that tech space. So I ran down a lot of ServiceNow, like frontline, low code, no code. I was leading all of those deals, and so that was really fun for me, and it was a new learning curve as well. And then, I got recruited to come back to G2X, and then I sort of got into the forum side. So I feel like I didn't start any of these businesses, and I am partial owner of Forum and G2X, and I feel like I'm very grateful to have been brought to the table as a partner when it wasn't me that was doing the risky part of starting it.
Well, it's like many things. If you don't have a team, it's either not worth doing, not fun, or not
Right.
possible, right?
Yep.
Like one of those, you got
Yeah.
to have a good team. Well, that's
Yeah.
great. You've had a very successful career so far. What are some goals that you still want to achieve, short term, long term? Anything you want to share there?
Sure. Well, I think on the G2X side, I really hope that people realize what a fun, cool, incredible tool it is and how to really change their go-to-market strategies. And so that's on the G2X side. I just hope more people use it. Because traditionally, before 2 years ago, it was really kind of a newsletter, and now it's morphed into this like incredible thing, right? But people just don't know because they still think it is what it was, right? And so that's always a tough job to change people's perceptions and get more users and all that stuff. So that's that on that side. But anybody that sees it, I hear whenever I demo G2X, I hear wow like 10 times. I'm always
That's
like,
great.
I just want to get this out, right? So that's the G2X side. And on the forum side, to be completely honest with you, we're it's probably one of the more exciting dynamic roles I've ever done because there if you think about the event side of the house, right? Like we had our disruptive tech summit on Tuesday and we had almost 300 attendees. We had every LLM presenting. So we had Anthropic did present. They were there. They didn't present for obvious reasons. But we had, OpenAI and we had Google Gemini and we had Microsoft and we had Palantir, even though they're not an LLM. But we had all these presenters of emerging tech.
Yeah.
And then we had a CIO presenting their innovation. And then we had a contractor present one of their solutions that they made a huge down select on for one of the innovative projects. And so being able to provide that for the industry on one side and then provide the consulting on the other side, I think is probably one of the biggest opportunities for any company in this space. So think about it, right? The only other company that does this is Gartner.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I ran into somebody from Gartner the other day and I was like, do I want to be a baby Gartner? Yes. Yes, I do.
That's a great goal.
Yeah.
No,
Thank
that's great. Awesome. Well, still on you here. If someone wants to be you, be successful, what sort of recommendations do you have for that hungry up and comer? They're just starting out, maybe in language and literature, maybe in business. What would you recommend to that person?
Well, a couple of things, and it always comes back to books with me. Man, it always does. No matter what the question is, the answer is always some book.
A book. Okay.
Yeah, but I'm gonna give you two different books,
Okay.
2 different books and a piece of advice. One book the first book is called The Fuzzy and the Techie,
Okay.
and it really is about people with language and literature degrees who are dominating the tech space. It's written by a Stanford professor, and it's
Okay.
not that boring, but
It's
really
not
it's
that boring.
not that boring. It's
Yeah.
actually really cool because, people are when they're young people, right?
Yeah.
They go into these, degrees and they're like, "I'm gonna get a computer science degree because I wanna or do organizational development as a CIO," or whatever it is, right? And then they get in there and they're like, "Wow, this isn't the path, and this isn't the way." But if you understand rhetoric and you understand people, you understand storytelling, you understand what it is that gets people to pay attention and really buy into what it is you're doing. That is the basis of literature.
Yeah.
And that is something that is a skill. And
Yeah.
and being a good communicator, an effective communicator is something that will put you head and shoulders above anybody else. So Fuzzy and the Techie, understanding what that's about. The second book is called The Go Giver. And people talk a lot to me about my sort of like my framework of approach to sales and business. And the Go Giver is my absolute framework. So the TLDR here is that you always want to give more in value than you take in payment. And that's like the basis of that whole book, and it's told from like a parable perspective about a hungry sales guy who's like, "Oh, I need to do all this stuff," and then he meets with the mentor, and the mentor kind of like walks him through this whole thing. So that those are like my 2 books, and then the third thing I was gonna say, a piece of advice would be to never turn down a meeting. I've taken like I take every meeting people ask me to take, and sometimes at my own detriment, but I take every meeting, especially in-person meetings. You feel like if I take every meeting, everybody's gonna try to sell me something.
Yeah.
That's not true. You're gonna open yourself up to conversations, people, opportunities, and connections that otherwise would not have happened.
Right. 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 Well, and just very simply put, your network expands, and person you meet in the meeting may know somebody and leads to something else. Yeah, that's great. Very open.
I saw a
Uh,
quote that said, "Networking is the only thing you can do that will change your net worth with one person."
I'm gonna steal that a little bit, and I've heard this many times. I heard this from an old friend a long time ago. Your network is your net worth many times. Yeah,
Yeah.
because if it starts working for you, you it's very effortless at times. I was gonna say on what's it, Fuzzy and the Techie?
Yeah, the fuzzy and the techie.
Fuzzy and the Techie. We've all been in that meeting where the most brilliant person is speaking, and you're just like, "Oh, dear." And they just can't there's no story, it's not coherent. You know that they're brilliant. You could ask them one question off to the side, but for whatever reason, they can't put it in a wrapped up, bow on it type of styled presentation.
Yeah.
And then we all know those people that are like very good storytellers, but then when you dig into it, you're like, huh, there wasn't a whole lot there. But somewhere in between, right? You want the best of both worlds. Totally a good life lesson. Being able
Yeah.
to, yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like when it comes to the people that are smarter than their own good, like just way too smart, being an effective communicator will beat somebody that's really smart 10 times out of 10.
Yeah. It's you kind of wish it wasn't that, but you're totally right. Yeah, because we're all listening for the story. That's just how we're programmed.
Yeah, people tell me like, "Oh, you're so smart, blah blah blah." I'm like, "Actually, I'm gonna be real honest with you. I'm
Oh,
not
that's
like a
funny.
super smart person. I'm just an effective communicator."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's great. Excellent. What's one thing you'd like to see in the industry? What's something maybe you'd like to learn about, or a particular change in the industry that you'd like to see happen in the next 12 to 24 months?
I feel like the contractors have kind of got themselves in a tailspin about the 8A program, the FAR rewrite, kind of like the churn and the struggles that have been coming down from the regulations and the change in administration and like all of those things. So what I would love to see is getting back to the mission, right? Like let's all remember what it is that we're doing here. And I know that like people talk a lot about like, oh, you can make a lot of money in GovCon, get into it, become a contractor or do this. But I say like go back to your why. Like Sinek says, what is your why? Start there and then backtrack into like what your company's doing, who they're doing it for, and why are you doing this as a job at all. And if
That
you're not completely committed to the mission, do not stay in this industry
right.
because that's what it takes.
That reverse engineering tool has helped me many times with what am I doing today? Because we've got a million to dos, and you try to get rid of as many as you can that are not priorities, but focusing on the bigger end goal, bring it back to today. That reverse engineering tool is very helpful.
And I think people don't wanna be hopeful. They're like, "Oh, this is such a hard time for us. We got Doge." Yeah, but I mean, Forum is gonna bring a Doge keynote speaker to our next event. Why? Because she's got an important story to tell. And so, we have to assume positive intent. We have to be more hopeful. We have to bring that positivity. And it's not like, "Oh, toxic positivity, Alexa, you're always so positive." Trust me, see me on the road sometime. Not that positive. I'm more of an authentic truth bringer more than anything. But at the end of the day, if you don't live in that positive space, it just makes it harder. And the government will pick out from a mile away that you're just in it for the money. And they don't want to do business with companies like that because their ass is on the line to make sure that mission outcomes happen.
Great way to put it. No, life is perspective. If you're positive, that's way better than being negative. All right. Would you like to do the recap for G2X and Forum?
Sure, absolutely. So G2 Exchange, the only go-to-market tool out there that really maps to what the government is doing now. Right? And then Forum is a bunch of big flagship events. We have our most exciting event planned for October, which is our Leading for Impact, celebrating women. So it's all women leaders, it's all women speakers, and all women award winners. And this year we're doing it at the MGM for the first time. So it's a big bet for us, very expensive venue. And we're hoping to go from 300 people to 500 and really do it up. And, last year with them taking all the women winners off of websites and erasing women across the board, we were just like, okay, time to go bigger on the women's side of house. And that's kind of what we're doing. But not just that event, all of our events, and from a go to market consulting perspective, holler at your girl if you need any support.
That's great. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Alexa. I appreciate it. I learned a ton.
Yes,
Um,
Billy, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. I love coming to your events and supporting the GovCon Leaders Circle.
Thank you. No, it's great. It's been good seeing you there. Well, thank you everyone for joining us. I'm Billy with GovCon Leader Circle. Stay tuned for our next episode. Like and subscribe. Thank you so much.
Yeah, take care, Billy. See you later.